I am the Lonely Necron, and welcome to my basement. So today, a shadowseer has convinced a farseer and a succubus to combine their joint war bands into a giant war host to then attack a possible entrance to the underground of a probable tomb world. So we're going to have some necrons that are aware of this, but not really too worried about it, so they're not going to really commit anything major like a whole lot of not a whole lot of vehicles, but probably a whole lot of troops. This is my he's supposed to be the red Gabo, but I make all of my orcs purple, so he's my purple Gabo. So this is the board that the Eldar and Drukhari forces will be playing on against the Necrons. So for the Necron side, I have the 3 Convergence of Dominions out. I normally use those as a teleporter. They'll be used as a teleporter today, but instead of having the possibility of something come out, every one of them can spit something out every turn, but it can only be a troop choice, so they can only spit out Necron Immortals or Necron Warriors. So we'll take a look at the armies, and then I'll do deployment, and we can start the happy. Okay. So on this side, we have the regular Eldar. We have a farseer. He knows Executioner and Fortune. 2 warlocks. Between them, they know Enhance and Protect, but I always forget which is which. 5 Wraithblades. 2 groups of 5 Dire Avengers. A group of 10 Guardian Defenders with a support platform with a Shuriken Cannon. 2 groups of 3 Wind Riders, all with Shuriken Cannons. A Wraith Lord with a Bright Lance, an aeldari Missile Launcher, and a Ghost Glaive. And then my very beat up Wraith Knight. There's a Sun Cannon, a Star Cannon, a Heavy Wraith Cannon, and a Shuriken Cannon. So we have the shadowseer that's going to tie the 2 groups together. She'll know Smite. So here's the Dark Eldar part of the war host, nominally led by the succubus here. She also has 10 Kabbalite warriors, 10 witches, 5 incubi, 2 groups of 5 scourges, a venom, a talos, and 3 reavers. So the incubi will be riding in the venom, and the scourges will be flying up in the sky, waiting until they want to come down and start fighting. So this was the combined Dark Eldar army. There will be several times that I'll just refer to them in general as Eldars. So this is what we have for the basic Necron defenders. We have a Doomsday Arc, a Locust Heavy Destroyer with an Enmitic Exterminator, and 3 Hexmark Destroyers. So the Hexmark Destroyers will be in their little teleportarium thing, just waiting. Only going to bring them out if the situation looks really dire. So the Heavy Destroyer and the Doomsday Arc will be the only 2 units on the board when we start. There will be inevitably a lot of warriors and a lot of immortals, but I'm guessing probably not more than 20 immortals. Probably not more than 30 of the warriors. I don't know how many exactly, so I'm not going to show them here, but that's my guess. My pregame prediction is probably going to lose to the Eldar. They're probably going to win over the Necrons just by sheer force, and they do have a Wraith Knight. Although it doesn't have an invuln save, so maybe it'll die quick. Who knows? Alright, so I'm going to set up the board again, set up deployment, and we'll play this happy game. As the attackers, the Eldar host thingy start over here on this side. So we have some Kabbalite warriors, one of the 5-man squads of Dire Avengers with the Warlock. So Wind Riders, the Reavers, the Wraithlord, and the Talos there on the ground. The shadowseer, farseer, the Wraithblades, and the Guardian Defenders up on this raised area here. You got the Wraith Knight with the other Wind Riders and the Venom with the Incubi inside on this middle area here. And then in the far corner we've got the Witches, the Succubus, the Elder Warlock, and the Dire Avengers. There is our Eldar war host minus the Incubi and the Venom and the Scourges in the Teleportarium area. So on the Necron defending side, I have the 3 convergences of Dominion that I use as teleporters. The Enmic Exterminator Heavy Destroyer and the Doomsday Ark. At the end of the first turn, these things will start activating, and we'll start pumping out some infantry to help these guys out on the surface. Alright, so that'll take us to Eldar Warhost. Round 1, turn 1, movement. So with the exception of the biker units and the Wraith Knight, everybody else advanced forward as far as they could. The Cobblites and the Dire Avengers and the Warlock all got off the ground over here. The Wraithlord and the Talos kind of moved up a little bit, but these guys got way up there. The Shadowseer and the Farseer both made it off onto the ground. The Guardian Defenders are just going to hang out back here for a second. The Venom and these bikers made it kind of far. The Wraithblades are just hanging out on the ground here. He just moved up his 12. And then the Succubus, Witches, and Dire Avengers all made it onto the ground. And the Warlock is still stuck up on the hill. There's really no benefit to Psychers right at the moment because the Warlocks are in the wrong place. So that'll take us to shooting. The only person who's in range to shoot is the Wraith Knight. So he's going to shoot at the Locust Heavy Destroyer. Okay, so first blood to the Eldar here. The Wraith Knight used his Sun Cannon. And yep, he completely killed the Heavy Destroyer. So yeah, that was super... You know, if this is revenge for the Gauntlet video, Wraith Knight, I get it. I do. You should have done that the first time. But, you know, here we are. Yeah, having said that, we'll go on to the Necron turn. The Doomsday Ark's not going to move, but stuff will warp into the Convergence teleport things, so we'll deal with that. So the Convergences popped out 2 5-man squads of Immortals with Tesla Carbines. One here. And one over there, and then a 10-man squad of the new Necron warriors with the Gauze Reaper. No Catan, so no happiness there. So the Doomsday Ark is definitely going to shoot at the Wraith Knight. So while I understand the Doomsday Ark really does have the possibility to do a lot of damage, you know, D6 shots, D6 damage, it doesn't really help when you roll low. Because while I did indeed cause 2 wounds onto the Wraith Knight, it only took 3 damage because of that D6 damage. I don't know why it can't have a 6 damage flat out, or even a 3 damage flat out. But D6? That's just rude. Having said all of that, it will be the Eldar turn because nobody's in range to charge on the Necron side. So Eldar movement. Alright, so we've got some pretty decent... Yeah, the Eldar drukhari forces here are pretty spread out across the board, but they also got some pretty decent penetration. The Bikers and the Venom and the Wraith Knight did not advance, but everything else did. The Guardian Defenders finally got off the hill. I was kind of hoping to stagger them a little bit so that maybe some guys coming in could potentially help make out the difference. Just extra guns. This Warlock finally got off the hill. Once again, there's not much of a need that I can see for Psychics. Except put the Warlocks on the wrong side. But shooting. Definitely a lot of shooting going on here. We'll get into the Eldar drukhari shooting phase. So I thought there was going to be a lot of shooting, but it turns out that a lot of these guys are just like an inch or so short of making the mark. The Reavers managed to kill one of these immortals. The Wraith Knight did a couple points of damage to the Doomsday Arc, and the Venom shot at these warriors, but failed to get any wounds. Yeah, there's nobody close enough to do any charges, so that'll take us back to the Necron turn. Movement. So the Doomsday Arc regains a wound from the living metal. All of the previous units, the two immortal groups, or the close immortals right there, and the warriors, and the other group of immortals over there all advanced forward to get out of the way. And then three groups of 5 immortals with Tesla carbines all came out of the convergences. No Catan, so Necron shooting. So I might have been complaining a couple minutes ago about the Doomsday Arc and its inability to do lots of damage, but it went ahead and redeemed itself and did 8 excellent points of damage to this thing, almost bracketing it, but not quite. The Immortals right there tried to shoot at these Wind Riders and managed to do 8 points of damage. And then both groups of these Immortals succeeded in killing off the Reavers. I call that a good deal. They're certainly not going to charge, so that takes it back to the combined drukhari eldar warhost thingy here. So we'll do some movement. So what I feel is kind of like the theme of this game so far. The Wraith Knight and the Wind Riders and the Venom did not advance, but everybody else advanced and is trying to get a lot closer. The Wind Riders are definitely succeeding. The Venom made it up top onto this next to the fountain area thing. There's really nobody in range to do anything for Psyker, so that'll take us to the Eldar drukhari shooting phase. So there was a little bit of a culling of the Necron forces by the Eldar here. The Wind Riders killed off 3 of these immortals. The Wraith Knight did 5 damage to the Doomsday Arc. These Wind Riders killed off a couple of immortals over here. And then the Talos and the Venom managed to kill 2 of these Necron warriors. Yeah, no, nobody wants to charge, so that'll take it to the Necron turn. Movement. The Necrons are definitely swarming out of the teleport thingies. The Doomsday Arc regained the life from the living metal. So these groups of immortals moved up to allow these Necron warriors to come in. These warriors got down off of their little hill thing. These immortals moved up so that these immortals could come in. Doomsday Arc never moves. The remaining 2 immortals in that group scooted up. The ones behind them moved up, and then there's yet another group of 10 Necron warriors with the Gauze Reaper. So we'll go into the shooting phase. So yeah, these immortals killed all these Wind Riders. These immortals over here killed all these Wind Riders. Between these Necron warriors and the front line of immortals, the Venom was destroyed, and one of the incubi got destroyed during the experience. And then the Doomsday Arc used its gauze array to kill 3 of the incubi and wound the Klavex. And then it used its high-powered Doomsday gun and did 8 points of damage to the Wraith Knight. So yeah, that was fun and awesome. And yeah, still not charging with the Necrons, so that'll make it drukhari Eldar turn. Movement. So the Eldar drukhari grouping has continued to advance forward quickly. Everybody except for the Wraith Lord, the Wraith Knight, and the Talos advanced. So these guys are finally up on this little hill thing here by the fountain. Succubus is up on the little thingy by the grave there. Break Knight chose not to move at all. And these guys made it over towards the base of the hill area. So we can do some psychics this phase, so we're going to do a psyker phase. Yay! So this warlock was successful in casting Enhance on these guys, on the Dire Avengers, giving them a +1 to their saving throws until the next psychic phase. The shadowseer successfully cast Smite on these Necron warriors, killing 3 of them. The farseer failed to manifest Executioner, but he also managed to get a Smite off, killing 2 of these warriors. That was nice. So that'll take us to the Eldar Drukhari shooting phase. So the Dire Avengers and the Wraithlord managed to kill the small group of immortals that used to be here. The Talos killed one of these immortals. The Wraith Knight did a whole lot of damage, like 5 points of damage to the Doomsday Arc. And yeah, that was pretty much all he did. So charging, this Clayvex is absolutely charging into these Necron warriors. So the Clayvex somehow managed to avoid dying during Overwatch. He did kill one of the Necron warriors, but somehow they managed to club him with their butts of their guns or whatever, and no more Clayvex. That was kind of sad. Yeah, that takes us over to the Necron turn. Movement. The Doomsday Arc regains the health from living metal. Everything that did not arrive in a teleport this turn just moved forward 5 inches. Got another squad of 5 immortals with Tesla carbines over there. Another squad of 10 Necron warriors with Gauss Reapers. And then another 5 immortals with Tesla carbines. Yeah, so we'll go to the shooting phase. So I consider that a pretty excellent use of the shooting phase. So it took all of these immortals to kill the farseer. It took pretty much all of these immortals over here to kill the succubus. And then the Doomsday Arc finally did good and killed off the Wraith Knight. It did not explode, but that's fine. Nobody on my side, Necron-wise, is in the mood to charge, so we'll go over to the Eldar Drukhari side. Movement. So for a nice change of pace, the only people that advanced this time were the witches. Everybody else just moved their full distance up. A lot of people are in a lot better places right now. All of these guys made it up. These guys are just waiting. So that'll take us to a psyker phase. The Warlock failed to manifest anything at all. And the shadowseer managed to cast Smite and kill one of these Necron warriors over here. So we'll go into the Eldar Drukhari shooting phase. So the Wraithlord, Talos, and the Dire Avengers, between them, managed to kill off this smaller squad of immortals that were here. And these Dire Avengers over here failed to hit anything at all, as did the witches. So that'll take us to the charge phase, which will definitely be these Wraithblades into the lonely Necron warrior there. And these witches are going to charge into the immortals. So the Wraithblades and the witches both made it into their respective targets without taking any damage from Overwatch. The Wraithblades very obviously killed the lone Necron warrior. And the witches were able to kill the 2 immortals that they charged, so good deal on their parts. That'll take us on over to the Necron turn. Necron movement. Pretty much every Necron unit moved forward. They're 5 inches, all just trying to get off the hills and closer to the Drukhari Eldar groupings. The Doomsday Arc did not move, and this group of immortals right here also did not move. The pharaoh in charge of this Tomb World has decided that this should be enough infantry to destroy the remaining Eldar forces. So we'll go into the Necron shooting phase. Okay, that was a super awesome, kind of super ridiculous shooting phase. These warriors right here killed off 7 of these Kabbalite warriors. These immortals killed off the Dire Avenger squad that used to be here. The closer squad of immortals did a little bit of damage to the Talos. The immortals over here did no damage at all to the Wraith Blades, but the warriors up on the top there did a point of damage to them. Between the 2 immortal squads and the warrior squads, they killed off the witches and the Dire Avengers. And then the Doomsday Arc, yeah, did 7 damage to the Wraith Lord, so it is super bracketed. So yeah, not going to charge anybody with Necrons, so that makes it the Eldar Drukhari thingy's turn. So movement for them. So the feeling I get right now is that the Eldar Drukhari are kind of in their final push towards the center death area thing here. All of the basic Eldar advanced, all of the Drukhari just moved. Scourgers came in middle here. Warlock over there just kind of trying to get a little bit closer. The Wraith Blades just moved up. The shadowseer and the Wraith Lord are just staying where they are, as is the Talos. So we're going to do some psychicness, probably just some smites because there's not a whole lot of guys left alive. So everybody, both warlocks and the shadowseer, are all able to manifest smite. The warlock killed one of these warriors. Shadowseer killed one of these immortals. And the warlock killed 2 of those immortals. So we'll have a happy little Eldar shooting phase here. So kind of a disappointing shooting phase, I feel. These Scourges and the Kabbalites managed to kill off 3 of the Necron warriors. Everybody else managed to save against the shuriken splinter type weapons, so oh well. But that'll take us to the happy the Eldar Drukhari charge phase, and there's definitely a lot here. Like this warlock into the warriors, the Talos into the immortals, the shadowseer into the immortals, the Wraith Blades into those immortals, the far warlock over there, probably into that entire grouping. That sounds about right. So where these guys kind of failed on their shooting phase, they definitely made up for it in their charge phase. This warlock made his charge and managed to kill 2 of the warriors. Didn't do a single thing to him in return. The Talos and the Shadowseer and the Wraith Blades all definitely made it into their immortal combats. All definitely killed the immortals. And unfortunately this warlock died in Overwatch. But he made the attempt. So yeah, 10 less immortals, 2 less Necron warriors. That was a pretty good deal for them. Unfortunately, that does make it the Necron turn, so we'll do some movement. So not a whole lot of movement, Necron-wise. These warriors fell back. The warriors over here advanced up, and the immortals to the left of them kind of moved up a little bit also. And we've hit that point in the game, so it does look like the Necrons might be on the losing section here, so the 3 Hexmark destroyers have dropped down from their teleportarium thing to start punishing the back line here. That'll segue nicely into the Necron shooting phase. The Hexmark destroyers definitely did what they needed to do. This one killed 3 of the Scourges. This one killed 6 of these defenders. And this one killed all of these scourges over here. So this backline of immortals killed off the warlock that was here and the rest of the Cobalite warriors. Let's see here. The Doomsday Arc almost killed the Wraith Lord. It has 1 health left. And then pretty much everybody that was in range otherwise. The immortals over there in between those immortals and these warriors between them killed off 3 of the Wraith Blades. So that wasn't terrible. Unfortunately, or fortunately I guess, necrons aren't charging, so yeah, that'll take us to the eldar turn. Movement. So the defenders have advanced forward. Wraith Lord is just going to hang out where he is. The 2 remaining scourges have popped up here onto this hill. Talos is just going to hang where he is. The last Wraithblade and the Shadowseer have moved up to the bottom of this hill with the anticipation of charging into these guys. But first, the Psychic phase. So the Shadowseer is just going to do some smiting here. Failed to manifest. Didn't perils, but still failed. So then the Eldari shooting phase. So I kind of feel like this is the repeat of the last round where they sucked really badly on the shooting, but they came through on their melee. The only thing that hit anything, the Wraith Lord managed to do a couple points of damage to the Doomsday Arc with his Bright Lance. Other than that, everything pretty much missed. The Talos got a couple of wounds in, but the Immortals completely saved him, so here's to hoping that their charge phase goes better. It'll be the Shadowseer and the Wraithblade into these warriors. So both the Shadowseer and the Wraithblade made their charges. The Shadowseer killed 3 warriors, the Wraithblade killed 2, and neither one took any damage in return. Not terrible. That'll take us to the Necron turn for movement. So these Necron warriors have fallen back. All of these guys are hanging out where they are. These warriors advanced off the hill and are trying to get over here in time. Both sets of these Necron Immortals just started moving this way. And the hex marks have all moved over towards to get closer this way as well. So we'll do some Necron shooting. Definitely a whole lot happened this shooting phase. This hex mark wiped out the remaining scourges. This hex mark killed off the Wraith Lord. These immortals did a couple of points of damage to the Talos. Both sets of immortals over here killed off the Wraithblade. And then the Doomsday Arc, with its Doomsday Gun, managed to kill off the Talos, leaving just the Shadowseer. It is the Shadowseer's turn now, so it's not going to move. I guess we're just going to go ahead and smite these warriors here. The Shadowseer successfully smoked, and it's such a nice, flows well up the tongue. Successfully smoked 3 of the warriors, killing them. Shooting phase is just going to shoot its pistol thing into these guys. So it did manage to kill off one of the warriors with its shuriken pistol. It is for sure going to charge that last warrior. So the Shadowseer most definitely made it into the warrior and for sure killed him. So probably the last turn for this guy. Yeah, he can reflect on how his attempt to bring together a cohesive alliance of Eldar and Drukhari did succeed, but will ultimately fail. Either way, it's the Necron's turn, so movement. Really all that happened was the Doomsday Arc regained the health from living metal, and the 3 hex marks just moved in as close as they can. That'll take us to the Necron shooting phase, and probably The death of the shadowseer. So after multiple volleys from this group of immortals and the other group of 5 on the left there, they managed to kill off the shadowseer. So ultimately, necrons managed to defend. I fully expected them to die, but then the hexmarks came in and managed to save the day. If it wasn't for the hexmarks, those scourges would have definitely done a lot of really bad things to these guys. They were kind of looking on the downward spiral there. If you made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate you watching. Definitely enjoyed this game. Been trying to get a joint eldar drukhari thing going, but I just kept messing up. So this one turned out better, I think. Yeah. And thank you again for watching. Have a good morning.